Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hey, we're back. It's the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. This is, get ready to sound the bells, episode 147 of our wonderful program. Ding, 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 ding. And we're joined by a special guest, and we got a great show. But let's say hello to Sean Farrick of Trek Culture joining us for the second time.
Thank you very much for having me. It's so nice to be back.
Oh, man. Well, it's good to have you. We certainly had a hell of a lot of fun having you around. We're taking a little break in segment one from doing what we often do, talking about a random episode, to talk about something I stumbled across that was highs and lows of unproduced ideas. So we're going to kind of do a little round robin about that and chat a little bit about that. But first and foremost, as always, also joined by my partner, Peter. Sorry, Peter.
I'm just here.
He's here. I know he's not part of the wallpaper. I promise. He's here. He's doing his thing. I would not have this program without him, without a doubt. But we also wouldn't be able to do all of the really awesome stuff that we do without our fine folks on Patreon, over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. You can get, by taking your 1 week trial, exclusive shows, early shows like this one. We drop off on a Saturday and a Sunday, and it's a day or two before they see it out in the real world. So you're the first. No ad shows, cool benefits for as little as $2 a month. We're rolling out different ways that you can also get a discount for signing up for a year, that you can get a 50% off your first month. So there is more coming on that front. But these folks are on board, know the deal. My buddy Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude, Francie, who does my wife's hair and loves our Bad Movie podcast, Luke Lore, Mr. Xbox Expansion Pass, and my Uncle Tim down there in South Haven, Michigan. Also, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Kelly and Crayley, Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, my buddy Kurt Krug, who helps us out with all these great interviews that we get, and our friend Tanya Lee. Also, the Nias family, the Super Squad down there in the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry, did give us our 5 new Patreon giveaway winners. These are folks who are going to get our Patreon for a year for free, thanks to the auspices of the great Nias family, who've always been a great supporter of us. We have Chipotle Bear, Famous Seamus, J. Newport 007, Cam the Movie Man, who I believe has done Holocron Chronicles with us, and Brian Osterman, a.k.a. Prozac Man, a.k.a. Darth Prozac. Sounds like there's a great story behind that, but I don't know it off the top of my head. So welcome all of you. As soon as you get added, you'll be able to listen to this program early on the weekend. So, Sean, since the last time we saw you, you've been on the Star Trek cruise, which I've enjoyed that twice myself. We're going to get Peter there someday. We need to get some kind of packet together where they sponsor the show and send us along. I mean, there's got to be a way, right? Letter writing campaign. Everybody start writing letters to the folks at the cruise company. We'll see what we can get.
Listen,
going.
I will throw my 100% support behind that one, because the cruise, famously cheap. But
what a bargain!
The low price of your firstborn and 10 bars of gold-pressed platinum.
Oh my God, is that Moogie who jumped in? Holy cow, that was a good Moogie. I was
second-born in for this one as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, listen, Charlie, you've been on it. It ain't cheap. I will say I felt I got the worth out of it. I will.
Oh
say
yeah, yeah. Now, I'm the super nut fan, though. April has definitely come into her own as being a Star Trek fan, but this is her favorite vacation destination, because getting on a cruise ship, man, you get just people walking around, the Trek stars, the activities, and again, you'll never be excited about going to Comic-Con again saying, oh, so-and-so is going to be there and so-and-so is going to be there, if you go on a cruise and you just get to see them in passing, or you get to have a chat with them, and it's just walking around. So anyway, enough of a plug for the cruise. I think it's probably almost all sold out for next year, but if it's not, give it a googs and give it a shot. So that's exciting Trek news. What's not exciting Trek news is the fact that CinemaCon happened in Vegas recently. There was news within the last month or so, or maybe going back a little bit further, 2026, the 60th anniversary of the franchise. We're going to have a new movie where we go back to basics, and it's going to be the origin of everything and yada, yada, yada. And Sean, what was the announcement at CinemaCon?
It was.
Woo, boy, look at the time.
And it's just like, I mean, I know there's all sorts of like investor reasons why they don't say this. Just tell us if it isn't happening. You know what I mean? Because as it stands, so absolutely nothing was said about it. It was very conspicuous in its absence. But as it stands, apparently director Toby Haynes is still attached to a Star Trek Origins story. So, okay. Depending on who you ask at what time, apparently the cast of, the Kelvinverse films, there is still talk of a fourth one. Hemsworth was in, then he was out. Chris Pine says he wants to do it, but himself has acknowledged the fact that, these don't do the blockbusters, do the smaller, more, intimate films, which, it does not seem to be the direction that Paramount would like to take at least the film franchise. So basically nothing. There is no news. We are no further along than we were a couple of months ago. The difference being we are now conspicuously lacking any kind of news. So for people wondering, where's your video on this, Sean? There was nothing to say, unfortunately.
We did. We got the surrogate of that is you coming on here and say you saved yourself some time. I have long been an advocate, and again, we did a great hot takes episode on Holocron where we gave Star Wars hot takes, where I gave a hot take that set the world on fire. And if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna go see it, because we had a guest host who was a young woman whose head almost exploded when I said what I said. But I'm not going to spoil it. But here's my hot take about Star Trek movies. I just don't think they should bother. I think Star Trek belongs on television. I think we had a great run with 6 films of TOS. They weren't all fantastic. Some were better than others. Maybe one was not great at all. We had a less successful and less...
Overrated.
Yeah. No. Ooh, there's your hot take. I love it. It's sizzling.
Out of the chat.
Yeah, right. Kaboom! Blows up the chat. We had a less than somewhat magnanimous run of TNG movies, but it did give us First Contact and Jonathan Frakes directing it, which we'll talk about Jonathan Frakes again in a minute. I'm not, and Peter is typically not a fan of the Kelvin films, and we don't have to debate that. But
to make people blow up again, I like the third one out of all of them.
Right. I don't.
Really good. I really like Beyond.
Some people try to kill me about it, but I like Beyond.
Yeah, I didn't dislike it. I think Beyond fit better than the other 2 films did. But I got to be honest with you, keeping the focus for me with Star Trek on television and telling bigger stories and more fleshed out stories. Star Trek is not a whiz bang, blow 'em up Star Wars kind of big spectacle movie thing for me. I think they accomplished a lot, but the TOS movies, I feel like, were able to grow what we knew about, they were able to grow what we already knew about characters that had been fleshed out in television, and kind of the same thing with the TNG movies. So, but as far as making a big blow 'em up kind of film, and maybe this is one of the universe trying to tell you something. Maybe they can't get one of these movies made because maybe it's just not to be done. I don't know.
Just not supposed to do it there.
I mean, I guess time will certainly tell. But yeah, if there is news to talk about this, I'm sure we'll talk about it. But this doesn't really break my heart. I'm not like, oh, I got to see another Kelvin movie. There's somebody who's part of our Discord who that's how, a younger lady, that's how she was introduced to Star Trek. She loves the Kelvin films. And again, Star Trek is, to me, a great enough franchise that it can have a different corner for everybody. Some people love Discovery because that's how they were introduced to it, where perhaps Peter and I aren't big fans, but who cares? Doesn't mean that somebody else can't enjoy it and absolutely love it. Some people might look at TOS and think it's, oh my God, so corny and blah, blah, blah. Or they look at TNG and like, man, it's so boring, whatever it is. But it's what we were raised on. So that's the beauty of having such a franchise that spans over time. Doctor Who is, I'm sure, very similar. You have your segments of people who love this and love that. And I don't see any reason to put anybody down for enjoying anything, but this is my podcast, so I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. But I'm also going to say that I absolutely respect people who want this, and I hope you get what you're looking for. It's just not my space. So
I think you can't say fairer than that. Enjoy what you enjoy, and let people enjoy what they enjoy. That's if you can do that.
It's the opposite of Paul McCartney. It's not live and let die. It's live and let trek. I don't know, something, whatever. Who cares? Archaic reference. All right. One other thing, going to do this super quickly. Peter and I had this great opportunity. Sean, you've got it coming up, talking to the same awesome group of people. Pancreatic cancer research, Purple Stride, the trek against pancreatic cancer. John Billingsley, Dr. Flax from Enterprise, has had a long form interview on our network. I also was lucky enough to connect with him earlier this year to talk about the support for folks affected by the fires in Los Angeles with the Hollywood Food Coalition. And then John was kind enough to connect the dots with his team that on April 26th, now again, we're putting this out in mid-April, so it's only about 2 weeks if you're listening to this when it comes out, that you can, if you happen to be based out that way, if you feel like jumping on a plane. My wife looked at flights for this weekend, for that weekend, because we're like, maybe we can go. We can't go. But to join their team, to contribute, to march with them in support of pancreatic cancer research. Now we have 5 wonderful people part of this team. We have Jonathan Frakes, Mr. Riker. We have Juan Carlos Cotto, the brother of Manny Cotto, who is very heavily involved in Enterprise and is an entertainment professional with a long list of credits himself. We have Kitty Swink and Armin Shimmerman. Armin, of course, Quark from Deep Space Nine, Kitty also from Deep Space Nine, and many, many other accomplishments. And of course, John himself, Flax from Enterprise. They have all been affected in their lives by pancreatic cancer, including Kitty, who is a 21-year survivor of pancreatic cancer, being able to recover from it and beating the odds. We had a wonderful conversation with them. It went up on our Patreon, the audio. It's now also on our network feed as audio with YouTube clip available by the time you listen to this. Sean, you're going to be talking to these folks as well coming up pretty soon here.
Yes, looking forward to it. Ours will be the week of, Purple Stride is, as you say, the 26th of April, so do keep an eye out. It'll be the week of that. The website obviously available online. If you can support, and if you if you have $1, £1, €1, and if you can, just share the link. Like, that does help as well. Just help get the word out there. Pancreatic cancer, it's a rotten one. It's touched my life as well. And anything that you can do in terms of helping fight this bloody horrible disease is just wonderful. Anything at all. I'm really looking forward to talking to. What a way to meet them as well. It was a bit of oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
For the best of causes.
And we were lucky, Peter. I think that we got a couple of fun stories out of them because we did kind of a normal-ish interview, and then we obviously talked about pancreatic cancer as well. Jonathan Frakes he's such an intimidating presence, my goodness. But he told me a couple of really entertaining stories that were not Star Trek related that I thought were totally awesome. So great experience for us. Links to the pancreatic cancer organization will be in the show notes. Please click, donate if you can, as Sean was saying. And if you live in any of these 60 cities around the United States that have one of these walks, there's one in your area. Please go. Please reach out. Every little bit helps, even if it's just kind of given from your heart. So anyway, all right. Well, that's that. So now we're going to move on to do something a little different, if you will. I was, Peter, a couple weeks ago, or maybe something kind of doing some planning. When I get bored, like if I have I got to take a mental break from work. So on my computer, I'll kind of doom scroll through Memory Alpha, and I'll just hit random page, just to trekify my brain a little bit. And at some point, I came across this page called Undeveloped Star Trek Projects. And I'll put a link in the show notes for this as well so that you can enjoy this too. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we went through this list, and it's a list that then leads you to some other places. So it's very expansive. Wouldn't it be fun if we went through and we looked at 5 that we thought, oh God, that would have been great, or 5 that were like, yeah, you know, you can kind of see why they skipped that one because it seems kind of sus. So I thought that, and then with having Sean on board, then you know, we're going to do a little round robin here. If we end up landing on one that we shared, we'll just move on from there, and we'll kind of get the conversation going. But like I said, I'll put the link in the show notes. Add us at socials. Let us know what you think, but let us know even if you're looking at this list, something that you think really stands out. But let's get it started. We'll go round robin. Sean, Peter, me. We'll go through the awesome first, so we'll keep it positive, and then we'll wrap it up going through the crazy stuff first. So, Sean, what's your first, hey, that sounds awesome idea from this list?
Well, the first one is Hope Ship. So I have been a fan of medical dramas my whole life.
Me too. So that's one that I'm with you. Same item.
Because you know what? It genuinely, I mean, it sounds like it's an interesting idea, regardless of the fact that it's a Star Trek idea. You've finally got the action centered on a medical ship. And of course, we're going a little bit back in time. That character of Dr. Mbenga, I wonder whatever happened to him. But
that's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah. And setting it on a Star Trek medical or Starfleet medical ship. And we've been, I think, probably the closest we've ever gotten is really the scenes on the Pasteur.
Right.
In all those things.
Which didn't happen. It was alternate reality, right?
Well, funny, like, you know, when you're thinking Star Trek uniforms, like, oh, what one was great? Oh, the ones that were introduced in All Good Things. Oh, no, that didn't happen. What about The Visitor? No, that future didn't happen. What about Endgame? No. Oh my God, did that never happen?
That poor outfit, you're right, it had 4 or 5 opportunities to thrive, and they all got wiped off the board.
It was a fantastic uniform variant, and they didn't even stick it in like a Picard flashback and make it canon. They're just like,
right, exactly. That's so mean.
Prodigy
so mean.
As close as we were going to get.
They brought the badge, and then some of the details. So,
exactly.
So that was like, okay, I'll take that.
Oh, and also, do you know what? Actually, to agree with you, and also, Voyager's episode "Timeless," Captain LaForge is wearing that.
Right.
Yep.
That badge.
Yeah. So the things you remember, but yeah, Hope Ship, medical drama, Starfleet, Mbenga. I'm so sold on that.
I agree with you. I had this conversation with April because she loves the medical shows. She is, you know, The Pit, which is with Noah Wiley, that's on Max right now, and of course. ER back in the day, and my God, my wife still watches Grey's Anatomy. It's been on for 50 years, or at least that's what it feels like. You know what I mean? So it's older than I am. But yeah, a medically focused drama, and even maybe make something kind of cross-generational. So, you know, you could turn it into, like, back in the day, the pocketbook novels, they would have something that would cross the series, like the Klingon Day of Honor one, or now I'm drawing a blank, but there were ones that, you know, it started in, they did a Section 31 one back after. So there was, it touched DS9, but way before that it touched TOS, and somehow it touches Voyager in the Delta Quadrant. You know what I mean? So, you know, give us like a big cross rip story that travel starts in Enterprise and ends in Discovery. You know what I mean? That time period. It'd be incredible.
I just think Lower Decks has given us an in with Division 14. That one,
right?
When Boimler is phasing, so they've kind of given us you could develop that technically.
Right.
That's there. Because as you say, if you want your cameos, people have to go to hospital, don't they? You know, at 100%. You know, maybe they fly by the Denorius belt. Maybe they pop into the Celestial Temple. Maybe they see what the hell has been keeping Cisco for so long.
Right. Like, what are you doing here, man? Oh, I was coming back. I really was. I was just, he's sitting in a hot tub drinking a martini.
At the time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, I'm not wearing a watch.
About being a being who doesn't live in time is that you lose track of time because there's no time where there's time.
No time. Oh my goodness. All right, Peter. How about you? What jumped out at you on this list?
Do we want to do like the low hanging fruit or one that's random?
You tell me what.
All right.
Dealer's choice.
Okay, I will go for one that stuck out to me. Star Trek Lions of the Night was going to be an animated Captain Sulu series. And I remember hearing rumbles about this in 2003, but it wasn't rumbles about it being animated. It was just about, they're thinking about doing a Captain Sulu show. And I can never get enough of the TOS movie era. I like the aesthetics, the uniforms, like everything about that particular
I agree.
period is amazing.
That was my first real Star Trek, was the TOS films, even though I had seen an episode or two, but I went to see Star Trek 4 in 1986. I was 10 before I'm sure both of you were born. And I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. So yeah, no, I'm totally with you.
Yeah. I mean, the page didn't give me a whole lot of context of what they were thinking in terms of like what the plot would be or whatever, but it's like Sulu on the Excelsior doing Sulu things and doing, normal Star Trek things, the first contacts and meeting new life forms. That sounds great.
It's like, this is one of mine as well, because Kazinti. Everyone who knows me
and the Kazinti.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Expand they would have had a chance to make them a little bit more less odd, like they were in the animated series.
So weird. So much to data mine out of that animated series. My goodness.
I mean, they made an appearance again in Lower Decks, but still.
They found a way. You're right. They may still be waiting for their real day in the sun. I don't necessarily disagree with that.
They brought back the weird colored Orions in Lower Decks, so
Oh my God, the Orions.
Yeah, the Orions.
Oh my goodness. All right, so I'm going to go with something wacky. There was an idea for a Star Trek sitcom featuring Loxana Troy, suggested by Gene Roddenberry. Big surprise! As a cable TV project for the Sci-Fi Channel in 1991, so really not long before he passed away. However, his death and the delay in setting up the channel was that before there was a Sci-Fi Channel? That's where. So would this have been like their their flagship, like their Voyager kind of program? That would have been interesting.
Side by side with Stargate, yeah.
Yeah, and that came from an episode of Starlight. Susan Sackett, who is Gene Roddenberry's assistant, who I'm friends with on Facebook, and I should reach her out and I should get her on the show and pick her brain about Gene. I just have to get around to it. Reckon that Loxana actress Majel Barrett Roddenberry had probably been lobbying for the series himself, and had heard Majel Barrett that she was very interested in Loxana being granted her own show and appearing weekly. So it's funny because there is a Star Trek sitcom in development right now that Tawny Newsome and is it Justin Simeon, her writing partner, that's an active production. It is an active production if I remember correctly. Sean, does that
as of the last update? Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, I think it could have been uproariously funny. I mean, I'm a fan of the sitcoms are such a mixed bag. There's always more bad than there is good. That's one of my favorite kind of YouTube rabbit holes these days are these, because I'm a Gen Xer. Like, here's 10 failed shows from 1993, or you know what I mean. And I was watching one yesterday that I'm like, oh my God, I watched every episode of that show, and then the other 9 I've never heard of. But this is one that absolutely people would remember because it would have been canonical and it would have been Star Trek. So this I absolutely would love to have seen. And we did get in Lower Decks the 3 Betazoid emissaries who were just in very Lower Decksy fashion going around the ship and kind of wreaking havoc. And spiritual cousin of this idea, maybe.
Hilariously, this was on my list of things I did not want to see.
Oh, that's okay, because I love it. So that deducts one, and so this is going very quickly because we're crossing the streams, as it were. But that works for me. I got no trouble with that at all. All right, Sean, what's your next one?
Just really quick, we love Loxana just in small bites. That's
I can
my
only handle her
smalls. Okay, all right. I accept that. But overruled. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't really matter because it'll never happen. But I would have found enjoyment in it. But I get it.
I think for my next one that I would like to have seen, because no one has lobbied harder than Michael Dorn for a Captain Worf series. I think give him at least a pilot. Do you know what I mean? Yep. At least let's see that, because in rewatching The Next Generation, and in fairness, Picard as well, I think it's easy to forget how funny Worf is and how good Michael Dorn's comic timing. I mean, we get there. Do you know what I mean? Everyone in the beginning, everyone's kind of, learning the ropes and everything. But once they sort of land on how to use Worf, which now is they know how to use Worf, and no one knows Worf better than Michael Dorn, I think that could open up the grounds for not just a let's explore the Klingons in the late 24th, early 25th century. But also we could explore Trill as well. Worf
Right.
about that culture too. Listen, I'd hate to say this out loud, but I'm going to say it. We're not getting a DS9 sequel. This might be the closest we can get to.
Armin said the exact same thing in our conversation with him, and it was off camera because we were waiting for everybody's video to upload because that's how our service works. And he's like, yeah, I said, what was it like being on Lower Decks? And he kind of gave us the spiel. He says that was kind of the closest to, in the end of it, he said it's closest to a wrap up of our show that we'll ever have. And I thought, yeah, it just makes me so sad because we all love DS9. Those of us who have really dug in really love DS9. So it definitely does make me sad, but yeah, so I totally get it. I totally get it. Peter, you got another great one?
I was going to say Worf is also on my list because
same.
It's Worf.
The Worf Chronicles. And I don't know.
There were like 3 or 4 different versions throughout this list of Worf stuff, and it was just like, give the man a chance. And then there was one where it's like Kurtzman was like, oh, it's so poignant. It's like, well, then why didn't you make it? You colorful metaphor. But anyway. So on my list is going to be no surprise to anyone who has heard me speak of it, but Enterprise Season 5.
Right, which we did a whole episode about that, you and I did, when we wrapped up Enterprise.
They don't have any details other than, maybe they would have started doing something with the Earth-Romulan War, which they were teasing several times during, especially with the whole Kirshara thing.
Right.
That would have been absolutely amazing. Even the writing by the time season 4 rolled around, especially with Manny Koto running the thing, was just a par above everyone else.
Absolutely.
And so I could have done with more Enterprise. I could have done with several more seasons, but at least season 5.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, we did a whole idea about, they would have, done this, or Shran would have become a regular character for this, or in any direction they would have gone in. But yeah, it was all the wrong things happened at the wrong time that just brought Enterprise crashing down, which just sucks. But it's what we got. It's what we got. And I'd love to see, those characters get back together. Maybe there was some hope with having Jolene coming back to voice Paul at the end. That was
a really big moment.
And so maybe that means that there's some kind of hope. You know what I mean? Though you never hear anything from Scott Bakula in regards to Star Trek anymore, the same way we never hear from Avery Brooks. So maybe that's what's really going to hold it up.
Something from him when he went on the
Decon?
the Decon Chamber.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't hear everything about it, but I know that they talked about it.
Okay. So. Interesting.
He was at the most recent Star Trek Day event as well, which I think he hadn't been for a while.
He hasn't been for a very long time. So.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was it? Because I remember asking Mike about Jolene, because Jolene had been at a Star Trek event at Star Trek Day, and that was a big deal. And now I'm going to take the man's word at this. He didn't know she'd gone when he pitched the episode to her, so he thought he had even less of a chance. Than he ended up having, which was just awesome. The world, the universe aligned.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. All right, I'll take a crack at one. And again, this is going back to a character that we all absolutely love, but a story about an elderly Nyota Uhura mentoring a young Jean-Luc Picard during her captaincy of the USS Leon de Grance?
Leon de Grance.
Leon de Grance, which is canonical. It was seen on one of those beautiful displays at Starfleet in the very first episode of season 2 of Picard. It was pitched, but it wasn't made, although it was suggested it might be made in the future. So obviously we're talking about recasting, which you can recast anybody, but that would be, for the what Peter and I viewed as a failing of approaching the Lost Era through Section 31. And I don't want to debate it. Some people out there may have absolutely loved it. It wasn't us. And it didn't really give us kind of that which we were really looking for when it come to, covering that 60-something year period between. But this really could. This could really be a notable handoff between what, TOS, certainly that later period, and then moving us into and informing on a young Jean-Luc Picard. But again, as a new show with recast, I mean, they can't age down, Uhura because she's not with us anymore. But, I certainly wouldn't want to see an age down Picard either. It's just his story. Patrick Stewart's story with the character, I think, was wrapped up in a way that I found very satisfactory. But to open it up again and to explore that period, and you could certain work. I mean, they could even work in, you know, their version of Captain Garrett, you know, into it in some fashion. I could see that happening. So I would be very excited to see that happen. I think that'd be pretty darn cool.
That could
Question for you.
Yes.
Would you take an animated?
I'd take an animated almost anything. Yeah. And animated are certainly, you know, are they quicker to market? I mean, it's you know, with as long as it's taken for us to get, you know, this next season of Strange New Worlds coming out. But that's not even really a production issue anymore. But yeah, I think taking an animated, even taking really a mini series, I think could be more effective and have more punch. And miniseries, shorter programming, just I would think give us the opportunity to see more in a shorter time period. So yeah, I think that'd be good.
Run series, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, back around to you. We've merged together so many. So do we want to?
Two left.
I was going to say, what about you, Sean? How many do you have left?
I've one that technically might still be made. Star Trek 4.
Okay.
I want a fourth film with that Kelvin cast.
Okay.
Because I agree with you, Peter. I think, look, I probably wouldn't rate Into Darkness as high on my ranking, but it's still a good film. I just didn't love it as a Star Trek film, you know. But I still like the 3 Kelvin movies. I thought 09 did brilliant at putting energy back into the franchise.
There's a lot of energy in that. Yeah, I would agree.
You know, like, and I think beyond sort of for my quibbles with the film, I think it got so much right.
Yeah.
And it definitely feels I think, closer to the spirit maybe of the original series.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see a sequel to Star Trek Beyond, whatever that looks like. We had 4 seconds of the Enterprise A. You know, it'd be nice to see a bit more.
Sped up really quickly in a circle.
Right. And I would like to see maybe closure to the stories of that cast. Now, you're in your own timeline. You can do whatever you want. You can have them retire. You can have Spock go teach at the Science Academy. You know, you can have Kirk decide all I've ever wanted to do was be a farmer in Iowa. You can do whatever you want with them. It's a completely blank slate. So
right.
I think as well it gives you a little bit of freedom to give the original series, in its own timeline, its own bit of closure. So I would look. But I think unless it comes out and says, oh, by the way, here's a cliffhanger ending, give us a 4th final film,
right?
Obviously, now so much time has gone by,
right? And make it almost what they call a legacy sequel, like Top Gun Maverick, where you jumped it forward, and that's a great example because the original Top Gun film is very corny in spots. Looking at it now, looking at Top Gun Maverick, I thought that was a great film, and I don't even like Tom Cruise, but I thought it was a really well executed story. For the sake of time, why don't we jump into talk about our absolutely least favorite of these ideas, and then we'll wrap it up, get Sean on his way. I'll jump to Peter. Peter, your number one most terrible idea of the ones on this list.
Star Trek Federation.
Okay.
This was something that was pitched right around when Enterprise went off the air, and the idea was hundreds of years in the future, the Federation has declined. The Ferengi are now the top power, and they're making money by spreading the Bajoran religion. It's very odd. Very odd. If you want to know more, look it up. It's bonkers. And it's amazing how many really interesting names are connected to the world building of this, like the Okudas and some other. It's like, how did you guys think this was a good idea? But one of my bigger quibbles with it also is that it's the start of where this whole thing of like the Federation is bad and is in decline and is now kind of the focus of like evil in the galaxy. And it's like the whole premise is like the Federation has fallen apart because it's been human centric. When was that ever a thing? I mean,
yeah.
So it just seems like it lost the idea of what the Star Trek universe is supposed to be for the sake of like, let's tell a grittier story, which was what people were doing in the mid-aughts.
Yeah.
So
that's very true.
So
Yeah.
it's not like it's surprising that that's what people came up with, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then it also led to, the things that I have griped about repeatedly about Picard season 1 or Discovery in its later seasons of just turning the Federation into like just cronies who don't know what the heck they're doing because they're all idiots.
Yeah.
And I really don't like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I gotcha.
don't mind a thing about like rebuilding the Federation from some disaster.
Right.
That's kind of what Discovery tried to do.
Right.
But like where the Federation has fallen apart on its own because they're being assholes. No thanks.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. All right, Sean, your number one idea out of this list.
I might be airlocked for this. I have no interest in seeing a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek project.
Oh, I'm with you. Talk
agree.
about a mismatch. My God, it's oil and peanut butter, or chocolate and motor oil.
And look, as I say, it might be somebody's favorite idea. Absolutely fine. I don't know. I think you kind of put it great there. I just don't see, because he is such a stylistic director, and I very much appreciate the fact that when you're watching Tarantino, like know when you're listening to Tarantino, and that's fine. So for him to, I think, just my opinion, for him to come into the Star Trek universe, is he going to have to sacrifice an awful lot of what makes Tarantino? Because some stuff I don't think would work very well within the Star Trek universe, or does he sacrifice nothing and make a pure Tarantino film? In which case, why does it need to be a Star Trek film?
Right. Yeah, exactly. If you pull Star Trek out of it, would it work as a Tarantino film? Then why do you have to jam Star Trek into it? So it's my gripe about the Kelvin movies. It's like, well, you've done something very non-Star Trek to drive this plot forward, in my opinion, and therefore that's why I really didn't enjoy it. There was no moral quandary. There wasn't a making the best out of an impossible situation. It was just explosions and here's a lady in her knickers. You know what I mean? So it's like with my thoughts of the Into Darkness film. You know what I mean? So when you take something decidedly non-Star Trek, but you're like, this will make it sexier in whatever way, or this will make it edgier. We're taking it to the edge. We're going edgelord with it. That doesn't work for me. So I'm with you there, without a doubt. All right, final one, and again, this is a tough one because I absolutely love what they compared this to, but it again does not work for Star Trek at all. A film concept devised by Brandon Braga and likened to a story by the Avengers. I'm a Marvel Comics guy. Look at what's behind me. I love the MCU films. I've been reading Marvel Comics since I was 6 years old, but a superhero team-up approach for Starfleet and Star Trek that would have put together all the greatest minds, let's bring the band back together, whatever it is, just really does not connect for me. I just, because again, it's now you're trying to take Star Trek and make it something that people are into in the current whatever, and I just feel like it falls flat. I don't know.
Honestly, I'm with you. I've no problem with I love crossovers. I really do. But I think the best Trek crossovers have been where it's smaller. Mm-hmm. I've spoken at length about Generations, how much I enjoy Generations, because I think Picard and Kirk in the cabin is so good.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
Things like that, Scotty in Relics, Sulu does a cameo in Lower Deck. Individuals. When you go around and I'm trying to think about, here's what, okay, right, I'm on my soapbox really, really quickly. Here's why I thought Justice League didn't work, is because Justice League went, here you go, here's everyone, there's no build up and it means nothing.
Right. Mm-hmm. But look, it's flashy. And, yeah.
100%. To their credit, the Avengers built it up with 5 films. Do you know what I mean? And obviously we have 60 years of history with Star Trek, but we haven't had 60 years of, I can't wait until Spock meets up with Tilly. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though they're relatively, do you know what I mean? But like, whereas, because every now and again, they tease the idea of the captains. And it's like, yeah, this sounds awesome. Oh god, does it sound awesome? Yes, it sounds awesome. Oh, but what if they have to go and get Cisco back? But why do they have to go and get Cisco back?
Right.
And that's it. Other than to go elbow in the ribs, elbow in the ribs. Look
Yeah.
at them.
Remember
They're on
that?
screen. Isn't
Remember that?
good? Yeah.
Remember that happened? Yep. You'll never forget this.
They're all on screen together.
Yeah. It's the greatest thing you'll ever see. Get excited. You're supposed to get excited. Didn't you know you're supposed to be excited because it's the greatest thing you've ever seen? Yeah, exactly. So it's very, shoveling coal into the furnace, trying to get you excited. Yeah, you're trying to ramp up something artificially that for people who, I don't know, it sounds snobbish, but people who really kind of understand what Star Trek is all about, and then outside of it, people who understand how story structure should really work when you put elements together to make something great. You're right. If it's not earned, if it's not meaningful, then so what? Then it feels like a gimmick, and it's there to be loathed. So. Oh my gosh, we could go on and on and on and on, but I promised Sean that I wouldn't keep him here for 2 hours. So this has been crazy. And again, add us on social media, add Sean on social media if you want. I'm going to throw him out there. If you happen to look at this list, and again, I'll post it, and you have other things that you feel very strongly would be great. If you disagree with things that we have said, or you want to debate it, what it is, that would be amazing. We would love the engagement. But with that, we're going to bid adieu to Sean. It's been awesome having you here. Where do people find you out there?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again. Listen, I'm on all the socials at Sean Ferrick, but probably more importantly, just Trek Culture. If you look for Trek Culture, you will find me. We are on all of things except for Instagram, because somebody was very quick and got the Trek Culture handle first. So we are at Trek Culture YT on Instagram.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
All I can say is I doff my cap to you, Trek Culture on Instagram.
And the Trek Culture is linked in the show notes as well, so follow it there. If you've never seen it, I watch you and I watch Ellie, who is what's on the last 2 episodes of our show here. We'd love having you guys, and we will have you back again. So with that, Sean, I will bid you adieu. After a brief pause, Peter and I will return, and we will take you through the end of season 6 of Star Trek Voyager. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Loved having Sean on. He's sharp. And again, Trek Culture over on YouTube. You will not be sorry. He produces some really great content. So plug. But now, time to take us through the end of Star Trek Voyager. So this is the 4th part of season 6. I'm sorry, this is not through the end of Star Trek Voyager. This is through the end of season 6. And it's funny, one of these episodes, and it's contemporaneous with the time that we're producing this episode. I was very privileged to be a guest on Mission Log with John Champion over on the Roddenberry Network to talk about one of these episodes, which I'll mention in a minute here. So I won't even, I didn't even watch it again because on their format, they drill down and they get very specific about talk about an episode, and they do it in such a fashion, and then they talk about meanings and messages and things like that. So I didn't even bother to look at my notes, so I'll let Peter mostly talk about that one. But let's jump on in with episode 21, which is Live Fast and Prosper, directed by our own Geordie LaForge, Mr. LeVar Burton. Robin Bernheim is the writer. I don't know if Robin is a he or she, but it's not a name that I recognize, so this could be a slush script. I always say that, but then I would feel bad if I went back and found, well, this guy was always a writer, but as far as I know, not so much the case. But from April of why did these all 2000. Say 2010?
It's 2000.
Somebody flipped it backwards.
Messed it up. It's 2000.
You suck. It's probably the April part is correct because it's the end of the season.
Yeah,
but
the April part is correct, but it's 2000, not 2010. Someone flubbed their thumb on the 0 key.
I will have to go back and fix all those because that is a disgrace. Turn in your badge and gun. You're fired. But anyway, boo. Con artists impersonate Janeway and Tuvok in what is literally the worst. And I've seen some bad Star Trek cosplays. Peter and I worked the con circuit for years as a part of SFI. And what some people think passes for a decent cosplay makes us cry because Peter and I are very serious costumers. And the outfits that you see in this one do not cut the mustard. But Peter, what you think of this episode?
I mean, it's a trip. Yeah. Hilariously, just as a note, if you haven't seen the episode, like the comm badge is like at least twice its size. It is
It ro- it-
comically huge.
It reminds me of, and again, it's always when I don't have the that I'm not facing the right stuff, but I have some of the Playmate Star Trek figures kind of scattered around this room, but in front of me, so you can't see it, I have a collection of the Voyager figures, and these were from the 1990s, but they came on the stands that were badges that were relatively the same size. But what I do have, hold on, I got something here, off camera visual, and this is not the same badge, but this is what my my big Riker
It's just
stands
about
on.
the right size, though.
It is, yeah. Even though this is a TNG version badge, so this is, I got this I got this from a vendor at a show. Who I now, because April and I sell toys, I usually end up at a booth next to him. But he's a guy who sells things for half off, but they're marked up 300%. Which as a business person, I absolutely admire. Good for you, buddy. No name. But it was just a trip of an episode, because again, the stakes were relatively low.
It's really just Voyager's reputation that's at stake, and then there's like some miners who got cheated out of some minerals.
Right.
It's not like, oh my gosh, the world is ending, which, as I've said before, I'm okay with that, because having, oh my gosh, the world is ending every time is just like, okay, that's too much.
Yeah. Then if you're always in danger of dying, then where's the rest of it? Where's the real danger?
Is the Omega Protocol, then no episode is the Omega Protocol. Like,
precisely. So yeah, it was fun. The actress playing Janeway she was a Vorta in the episode The Ship in DS9.
Mm-hmm.
So same actress. So I love it it was great. They had even it was obvious from the casting department, they took the regular Voyager jumpsuits, but they had just a dicky for the undershirt, and their pips were. Anybody who's ever talked to me about costuming will know that when someone gets those shiny frog clipped pips and puts them on the collar of a shirt, it's I hate to use the word triggered, but I get triggered. It really drives me nuts. But that was the biggest part of this of enjoyment in this episode for me, was just because I've just seen so many
horrible uniforms.
Yeah, so many terrible cosplays.
I've worn something like that when I was a kid. Like, it's pictures of kids in the 90s wearing uniforms that were basically just like that with the oversized badges, because that's just what you could do.
That's what there was. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've taken, and I didn't take this badge, but I took back in the day when I had my very first TNG, collared top two-piece, of which I have a very nice one now, and I'm very excited. I spent some serious money to get all three colors of it.
Very nice.
And I'm very excited to wear it. We're doing a photo shoot later this summer. But back in the day, all you could buy was the one piece from Ruby's, no shoulders. It was just a shirt. It zipped down in the back, just to the neckline, so you could pull it over your head. And it had a screened on badge over it. But I would take the Playmates badge, and I think if I had an extra one, I would snap off the little nub and use just Scotch tape so that it wouldn't look so ridiculous. It was important to me.
I used in the 90s, they released the Trek Talk communicators. They were magnetic little things that had like a speaker that you could stick behind it. Yeah. So the magnet was not that strong, so you'd use tape or something. But like, that's the one that I use and like put it over stuff. Yeah. And that was just about the right size. Yeah.
The Playmates had, back when they first, in 92, when they had their first line, they had the big communicator. Like, it was maybe 3 times bigger than it needed to be. So it was about this size, but you would push and it would make the chirp, and it'd be like, ooh, it was a kid's toy. So anyway, I'm a cosplay snob. Sorry. Absolutely enjoy what you enjoy. Oxford and I go head. We have locked ass about this for years. He's like, why don't you just let people enjoy what they enjoy? Just yes, but just not around me. just do it somewhere else, by all means. All right. So yeah, fun episode. And yeah, you're right. It's great to not have, the Omega, directive and everyone.
It's really hilarious to see different people trying to play the main cast and you have like, oh, some of that's accurate, and then they have hilarious like complete screw ups.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's good stuff. So yeah, definitely a fun episode. Okay, this is the one where I'm gonna hand over a lot of the reins to you, because this is the episode that I got to talk about in depth with John Champion on Mission Log. That is episode 22, Muse, Mike Vihar doing the directing from a script from Joe Manaski from April of 2000. See, I went through and changed it in all our notes because it's going to drive me nuts. Oh, wait, no, I'm lying. This is not the episode. The next one is the episode I'm talking about. But anyway, I'll read this and then you can read the next two, Peter. But anyway, yeah, Muse. Torres is stranded on a bronze-aged planet after crashing in the Delta Flyer, where she helps a playwright adapt the story of Voyager to the stage. Also, Kim is missing in an escape pod. That's such a tack on because, just because the way he shows up at the end of the episode and he's just like, I've been here the whole time. I crashed the escape pod, Kim 50 miles from here. Yeah, it's just, It's but this is interesting. You know what this one made me think of? And again, Peter, I don't know if you had anything approaching this experience, but when I was in high school, so 1,000 years ago, over 30 years ago, I was in musicals all 4 years. Because I was in the choir, I was a singer. Singing is my thing, or it certainly was back then. But it was peripheral to what they call theater kids. Kids who did the fall play and the variety show. I did the variety show a couple of times too with different musical numbers. I did a monologue in different songs from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, I think when I was a sophomore. So anyway, not to make it all entirely about me, but this episode really underscored for me, the ridiculousness of the theater kids. Because that's even though the characters were all adults, this very much seemed like you had the young lady who is an actress who passed away tragically. We did see her on Enterprise. Kelly Waymeyer is her name. We did see her on Enterprise. She was also in an episode of Seinfeld, which again, we've talked Seinfeld, Peter. I know you're not terribly familiar, but for my generation, Seinfeld is like the sitcom. So you tend to remember things like that. But yeah, she was the love interest of this playwright that was kind of like B'Elanna was. She was kind of living in the Delta Flyer. She was kind of squirreled away. And yeah, he was coming around and like feeding her and like, no, you got to stay here because I need your stories. It was just very much. It was enjoyable because it was played for this weird society where they had a patron who paid, he paid for their stories. Because I remember very early in the episode, he was like, well, sir, I don't know if you've noticed, but my performers are looking a little thin. Maybe give us a little bit of cheddar. You know what I mean? So he throws them a bag of jewels and he's like, go feed them this. I'm like, that doesn't look very appetizing. But you get the point. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of funny because it's very ancient Rome, you think of, I found it kind of amusing. And again, B'Elanna, she was in a kind of a perilous situation because the jealous would-be girlfriend wanted to stay away from my man, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of silly. But yeah, the bit with Kim was just like I said, Kim Ex Machina, which I could even change the name of the episode of that because it's pretty good. I don't know. What did you think?
It was, I really liked how they tied in ancient Greek play style with Star Trek, because you begin with a chorus reading a captain's log, which is just hilarious, because you're brought back to Antigone or Oedipus Rex or all the way that the Greeks used to tell their stories. So being an aficionado of that particular time period, I found a lot of those tie-ins really, really fun.
Yeah.
So as dumb as this episode can be, it's she's just trapped here. There's really no reason for her to be trapped there that long,
right?
But it's fun where you have the guy grabbing stories, and then you see different versions of it, and it's okay.
And there wasn't there the plot twist at the end? What was the seduction? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
There was a seduction where now 7 of 9 is going to seduce Harry Kim. I feel bad because I watched this a couple weeks ago.
7 says that she's the Borg queen on stage or something. It's wait, what?
It just becomes very soap opera-y, and like I said, and then even echoed even so more because you have Kaylee Wimeyer's character who's like, well, you can't have him, he's mine, and B'Elanna's like, lady, I don't give a shit, I just want to go home, don't care about any of you. It was fun. Yeah, the Kim part at the end was pretty tacked on. The poor Delta Flyer. So this is not the end of the troubles they have with the Delta Flyer in this batch of episodes.
No.
But it is. Yeah, they always. But again, the beauty of Voyager is they always manage to fix things up, and nothing ever looks like Battlestar Galactica, and everything's all broken up. They never, it's not like that scene in one of the episodes of Battlestar we talked about over on the Patreon where it's like, yeah, Viper number 16 is totally shot and we're going to scrap it for parts because there's no other way. It's not, we're not going to stop by, the scrapyard and pick up some extra parts or go to Home Depot and get some more, whatever to fix this thing. So yeah, there's a little, the replicator fixes all, even if you don't have power to power the replicator, but that's not important.
No, replicator fixes everything.
Replicator fixes anything. All right, well, you take the next one. This is the episode that John and I talked about.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
So episode 23, Fury, directed by John Bruno, teleplay by Brian Fuller and Michael Taylor, story by Rick Berman and Brandon Braga, aired on May 3rd of 2000. A much older and more powerful Kes returns to Voyager and attempts to travel back in time to change her history. That's the episode in a nutshell. It's definitely a bit more disaster than that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you have I think it's the whole teaser is it starts with Kes getting on the ship and just going, there's almost a shot that's full Darth Vader from Rogue One.
Right.
Where she's just glaring at the camera and there's just sparks and crap blowing up around her.
Yeah,
as she's
exactly.
walking down the corridor, which to be fair, really well done.
Right. And especially for the time, because it's 2000 and CGI is starting to, we've had episode 1 of the theaters, which is no ILM and all the money dumped into it, but really starting to work CGI into stuff like this. It's just, in a lot of ways, it's in its infancy. So yeah.
So there's just some really cool stuff. Kes uses her powers she basically has to touch the warp core, and that gives her enough power to go back in time. How that exactly works, I don't think they really explain that.
It's not important.
But yeah. So then there's throughout the episode, you have various people going back and forth in time. I think it's primarily Naomi and
Tuvok is the one who has kind of the Guinan complex, a la the Yesterday's Enterprise.
Yeah, where he knows something's wrong.
He's there, and he's a part of participating, and just being himself. But he's also I'm getting this funny feeling, and then he sees he sees Naomi. He's like, who is this child? And then, like John and I talked about, then, we stuck Joe Carey back in here, which you never see him again until the end of next season. And I don't want to, sorry about the spoilers, but they bring him back just to kill him off, which sucks.
Yeah.
But not in this episode. And then you also, you get Naomi Wildman's mom back, who you haven't seen at all in over a year.
Ages.
But Naomi comes back absolutely all the time. So, again, please listen to the episode of Mission Log. Listen to every episode of Mission Log because it's a great program that I did where I talked about this one, which should be out almost at the exact same time that this episode comes out. I didn't realize that we were, so contemporaneous, I think, because their episode about Muse came out this week. So I think I'm out next week. So I'm kind of psyched about that.
Nice.
But to underscore what I said there, Kes had a great send-off at the beginning of season 4. She jumped in a shuttlecraft. She said, I'm evolving to another level of consciousness, blah, blah, blah. She pushed, Voyager, through Borg space. And it was that's a nice send off for Kes. This, to me, this entire episode feels like we got 26 episodes in a season. We got to do something. I know the research behind it was we were trying to figure out a way to bring her back. I just really wish they hadn't done this one at all. You know what I mean? I thought it was meaningful. I thought it was great for a way to the character to move on. And then they bring Jennifer Lean back. She's had a rough go of it. Even without the makeup, she had a lot of problems. And I know since the year since, she's had a lot more problems kind of in her personal life, but she looks rough. The storyline is in a lot of ways classic Star Trek, because they have, they have the Deus Ex Machina with the time travel bit and the scientific mumbo jumbo. And in the end of it, they tell a story about the redemption of a character, but it's just
a character who didn't really need to be redeemed.
Exactly.
So there weren't really reasons. It's an interesting story to have someone who's their life has gone completely off the rails, and they go back in time to try to correct what they think was the problem.
Right.
Even though, having lived life, life is a lot more complicated than it being one thing. Everyone likes to point out, oh, it's the butterfly effect. You change one thing. Well, it's a little bit more complicated
Yeah,
than that.
not true at all. Exactly.
And that's putting it mildly. So it's an interesting way to kind of look at that problem where you just like, okay, Kaz, you think that this will solve it, but that doesn't, it's not solving it. And going back into the past is not going to change it anyway.
Right.
So what you need to do is to move beyond it and remember who you were before. You're not going to be that person again, but try to be more like her from your past. Be the better person.
Right.
And so like there's good stuff in this episode, but it feels like I don't think you really needed to do that with Kaz particularly.
Right. It just seemed like, okay, well, it was very tacked on because there was, it was, we used, and we even used it when we were talking about some of the ideas in our first segment. It was very unearned and it was really out of left field. It wasn't like, well, Kaz always had this darkness and here's the darkness that she had. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. And even like throughout her 4 seasons before, like we didn't really see any darkness in her. We saw some like a little bit of trauma, but not like ooh evil. So it was just
not at all. All right, well, I took 2, so you can take this next one, which is next.
All right,
great episode. It's all yours.
Episode 24, Lifeline, directed by Terry Wendell, teleplay by Robert Dougherty and Rafe Green and Brandon Braga, story by John Bruno and Robert Picardo. Aired on May 10th of 2000. The Doctor's creator, Louis Zimmerman, is dying in the Alpha Quadrant from a disease similar to the Vidian phage. The Doctor's compressed matrix is transferred to Zimmerman's lab on the Jupiter station to assist Mr. Barclay and Counselor Troy in attempting to treat the illness.
Woohoo!
Once again, we have Robert Picardo talking to himself.
Oh my goodness. Which is a very, very common in Star Trek, when you have a double, when you have a Riker double or a Kirk double or a Boimler double.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it was a sweeps episode because, I've explained to you that back in the day in November and May, that's when ratings were really intensified. So they tried to really ramp it up and have, extra special episodes and stuff. But
yes, they brought in characters from other shows to be like, hey, if you haven't been watching Voyager, guess what? We got some TNG people.
Exactly. And they do it again. And they did it earlier this season and they do it again next season too.
Yep.
But this was the first episode where they, if I'm not mistaken, they established a regular 11-minute window every 32 days that they could have actual regular communication. They could speak to them. So that was huge. That's a very pivotal part of that will inform on a lot of different episodes and storylines that happen throughout the rest of the series. But yeah, Barclay and Troy, and then Zimmerman, who we've seen him in hologram form earlier in the series in an episode of. It was one of those. It was an episode. A season 2 episode that was actually filmed in season 1. If you pay attention to the star dates, really, if you're just watching it anyway, it doesn't really matter. But and then we saw him in real life on Deep Space Nine when he came on board to create the Bashir hologram, and an absolutely great episode. Which is funny because that I think this, if you were to do the time frame of it. This almost contradicts the fact that I think during this he says, well, I haven't left Jupiter Station in 4 years. Well, it was 3 years prior that I think the DS9 episode took place, but whatever. Time, space.
Zimmerman is also known to exaggerate. He's a little bit of a narcissist. So.
Right. But in the end of it, this was a pretty touching story, I thought.
Yeah.
And Robert Picardo, met him several times. We'll, see him again. Actually, he'll be at Motor City Comic Con if you're here in Michigan next month. April and I will be there doing Star Trek trivia. We're very psyched about that. But look forward to saying hello to him. He's probably on the cruise again next year, but he is a very interesting guy. And I didn't really stop to realize that he was part of writing this story, but and I don't know exactly how that breaks down and how much of it he really did. But this was a very fun episode. I enjoyed this very much. It was touching. And I really dug on it. So yeah, it was definitely some good storytelling.
Fun random fact is the one disguised woman that the Doctor goes in to scan Zimmerman is one of the females from Insurrection.
Oh,
one of the species that was one of the second species that was absorbed by the Sona.
Oh, gotcha.
So
The Sona who we never see again.
Yeah. Just one of those like, I know that costume and that headdress. What's going on here? So I just
they
had
just
to double check.
They just had to pull it off a shelf and dust it off.
Yeah, I mean this one was like just like 2 years after Insurrection, so the costume would have been there.
They had warehouses and warehouses of those costumes that they used and reused and stuff.
Most of them are still there.
And,
so.
I mean, and a lot of them got sold off in the Christie's auctions early.
Well,
2000s.
some of them, because they I mean, usually they have like 5 or 6 different costumes for each character. So.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
The extras not so much.
Right.
But they're like, I have Kirk's uniform from the TOS. Well, you have one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, particularly
like
back. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even with the regular characters, they had to have one uniform that was distressed. Like, okay, this is my one that's torn up and there's,
Or like, it would be a big deal if someone's like, hey, I have Picard's uniform for Tapestry, because you would know which one that is.
Right, exactly.
Black mark in the middle.
Right.
So like, but still, it's kind of fun to note.
I had Picard's episode from Generations where he had the weird belt for some reason on the DS9 uniform. So yeah, definitely a fun episode. All right, well, here's an episode that it's the essence of forgettable. Episode 25 is the haunting of Deck 12. David Livingston doing the directing from a teleplay from Mike Sussman and Ken Biller and Brian Fuller. So you got all these heavyweights knocking the story out. By Mike Sussman. And from May of 2000, as Voyager travels through a nebula, all of the ship's power is turned off, giving Neelix an opportunity to tell the Borg kids a ghost story. Well, what do you think, Peter? I don't know. I'm trying to.
Honestly, I forgot about this episode, which sounds terrible. But
forgot to watch it, or just forgot about it after you watched it?
Both.
That's fair.
Yeah.
See, always do your homework. No, I'm just kidding. Excuse me. Allergies this season. My goodness. Yeah, it's kind of told from the perspective of, once upon a time, we, blah, 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 and there was this thing and that thing. And in the story, the ship was losing power, and then this nebular creature got into the computer, and it was using the computer to talk, and it wanted the computer to go back so it could escape. And it was just like, okay.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, the hilarious thing is it gets Majel Barrett to do some really funny stuff with the computer voice.
Right, exactly.
So that's fun.
Right.
But it's kind of like a Ghost in the Machine sort of thing of like, oh, the computer's coming to kill you. Oh, the ship's killing us. There's ghosts in the walls.
Right. Yeah. But of course. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a classic ghost story. It feels kind of, this was in May. So this is one of those ones that I would equate to like TOS's Cat's Paw, where it's like, we need to do a scary Halloween episode and we're just going to do it at some random point because we can.
Exactly. Yeah.
And usually they end up not being great because if you've seen Cat's Paw, it's not good.
Yeah. First episode with Chekhov and with his Davy Jones.
It's got some like notable things, but it's just not good.
Yeah.
And so this feels kind of like it's better than that, I think.
Yeah.
But it's still just one of those like, we're gonna shine our flashlights and tell ghost stories in 10 Forward or the observation lounge or wherever they are, and it's just like, okay.
Well, it's the age old trope of let's center the story around kids, and at this point we're just not that far off from because we've gotten rid of, now I can't remember, because we started out with, this was great. We started out with the Borg. There was a baby, which got thrown out of an airlock. We never saw it again.
Baby's gone.
And then there were twins, which we still have at this point. There's an older twin girl, Mazadi, I think is her name. And then there's Icheb, who we keep through the rest of the series.
There's 4 kids at this point.
Okay, so there's still, so we've only lost the Borg. But now at some point, I think early next season, and we won't be back to season 7 for a bit yet, that the twins and Mazadi leave, so we're just left with Icheb because we've already met Icheb's family and they suck. So that's not happening again. So and then Naomi Wildman, who maybe her mom is dead. We just don't know because we never see her again. We only saw her in flashback of, the Kiss episode that was recently. So
Yeah, I would imagine she's still alive, but I think we hear from her near end game.
She and Joe Carey are off working in the science lab on deck 13 that nobody ever
show up
visits.
to have someone get offed. So
yeah, exactly. So I think it's one of the age old tropes of storytelling in general when you have kids as the focus of a story, and it's child actors are challenging, even though they're not as much of a part of the story because they're just listening to Neelix talk. And Johnny Phillips, or Ethan Phillips, who's Neelix, is tremendous, and he does a lot of great stuff with that role. But this is just a story again, and I guess it's a few of them that we've gotten in this batch of episodes that are just kind of like, it doesn't really do anything exciting. It's very like, we've got 26 episodes, and this is one that we've got to plug in the week of May 17th, and this is what we got.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't mind having episodes like that. I like more. I like longer seasons. I've always said that. So I'm okay with having episodes that are mildly forgettable but not awful.
Right.
Whereas instead of like a whole arc that is awful,
and 10 episodes of awful,
and we're going to double down on it because it's like, oh, this is the only story that we've got.
This is what we got. Yeah, I mean, things have definitely changed when you pull out the network aspect of it and the 9-month season or something.
And for good or ill, this is just where we're at right now. That could change in the future.
Right.
You see Stranger Worlds is kind of headed more back towards some more serialized, episodic, pseudo-serialized episodic stuff.
Right.
And that's like Deep Space Nine. And I think that's where Trek functions the best, I think.
Right.
But who knows?
Who knows? All kinds of different stuff could happen. All right. God, and I apologize for my grotty voice, but all right, we're wrapping up the season with Unimatrix Zero Part 1. I always feel bad that we do a Part 1 and then we're like, and come back for Part 2 in 9 months. Yeah. So we're sorry about that. The good news is one of our long-term plans, just to take a break here for a minute, is that when we do finish doing all the series, which we will do later this year in 2025, our big plan is we're going to do some kind of best of worst of, and then we're going to get to a long block of the show. We're in segment 2. We're going to talk about the two-parter. So all of our cliffhangers we will talk about a little bit more in depth when we get there. Yeah, and we'll be able to really drill down. So we won't leave you kind of without. So, but anyway, Alan Craker, who is a great, awesome, very experienced director from Voyager and DS9, directed this, and he has a track record. I'd have to look up the numbers of finales that or a cliffhanger, like season finales that he's directed. Several from both shows, and I think maybe even a couple from Enterprise. Yeah, go ahead. Anyway, story by Mike Sussman. So now we know Mike Sussman is a regular because he's come back for several. But this is teleplay by Braga and Joe Manosky. So this is the core group. May 24 of 2000, Janeway, B'Elanna, and Tuvok infiltrate a Borg cube in an effort to save Borg drones who are trying to develop individuality. It's kind of a weird summary, and it doesn't even really mention that, like all Borg episodes or a lot of different episodes of the show, this is really based around 7.
Yep,
and
Borg episodes.
Yeah, Unimatrix Zero is, it's kind of a cool step into a virtual world because, there are Borg out there that have a, genetic anomaly that allows them to visit this, and it's very 90s. It's like the Matrix. It's this very 90s like virtual world that's just a set on stage 16 at Paramount. So it's still very of its time. It's like, here's a tree, because it's like a jungle. Here's a tree and here's a potted plant. You know what I mean? And but they do take on the trope of like, Seven goes there, but one of the other Borg that's there, she's been going there since she was, 10 years old or something. And she had a romance with this guy, but it was only in the virtual world. So it's funny. It's almost really prescient of the world of social media where we all have tons of friends that live all over the place and that we may never meet in real life. I mean, one of the guys that we do our podcast network, my partner Mark, lives in Nova Scotia, Canada. We may never meet. We may just always be virtual friends, but it doesn't mean it's not a real friendship. It's just different. But a virtual romance where you never meet anybody.
That seems a little strange.
It does. It makes more sense in this context, but it makes less sense in the context of probably what's happening around the world everywhere right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they turn it into a romance, and this guy doesn't reveal it at first, and then she finds out, and she gets as pissed about it as Seven really gets mad about stuff, where she just gets kind of like, well, blah, 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 blah,
She gets kind of pissy.
yeah, pissy.
Yeah, she's not like pissed off. She just gets pissy.
She has a very, Seven Borg reaction to it, but
Yeah.
But yeah, at the this was a great cliffhanger. I absolutely was watching this because 2000. This was right before Noah, who's my oldest son, was born. He was born in the next month, almost to the day. Actually, exactly to the day. He was born June 24 of 2000. So it was me and my very pregnant ex-wife sitting and watching this episode on. I think Voyager was on Thursday nights. You could look it up. But it had one of the greater cliffhangers that we've seen in a long time, because the mission at the end of it to infiltrate Unum H0 and use it as a way to cripple the Borg, because that's all Borg plots. We found a thing, and this thing will help us
try to stop the Borg.
We're going to cripple the Borg. So it's very tropish, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But the way that they do it is that Janeway, B'Elanna, and Tuvok take the Delta Flyer. They get it destroyed. So, if you thought things were bad for the Delta Flyer back in news,
and guys,
yeah, it's worse now.
We're good, but
the good news is you've not seen the last of it, because they built one. They can push a button on the magic shuttlecraft maker and just make another one. It's no big deal.
Which is hilarious, because then in Prodigy, they literally have a shuttle replicator.
Probably because of Voyager. Voyager probably invented it. I think it's pretty cool. Their innovative solution is the three of them allow themselves to get assimilated. I think it's done for kind of shock value, because they get assimilated and then they bop back to Voyager. And there's this great sequence of Voyager attacking the Borg cube, which was all CGI. It's really done super cool. You got to see Voyager firing, like the rear phasers and the bottom phasers, and like doing
ventral and lateral phasers, things that you don't see generally. Fired on a Star Trek ship.
So, watching the last act of this episode, I think
the last act's really cool.
Really well scored. And, so they have a plan allowing themselves to get assimilated, because you don't really know that's what it is. But the doctor's on the bridge and he says, their life signs are destabilizing. And Chakotay goes, right on track. Let's go.
So far, so good.
Which is great, because they warp off after having a damaged warp nacelle where they're venting warp plasma. But the good news is the warp drive still works when you need it to. So that, they warp off and all is good. And then a second later, they're fully Borgified, which I just watched First Contact recently, and
it takes a hot minute.
Yeah, some of the assimilated crew members never got fully Borgified. They were just wearing their regular outfits, and then they had a few little Borg bits, and their skin was gray. So, but the thing is, it really works. And let's not forget the really brilliant moment of this episode, which was in not the cold open, but in the first act. Oh, first of all, the cold open, going back to that was pretty cool, because you saw what Alicia, my ex-wife, referred to as Borgton, like Borgtown, with the big facility that they all had. Unicomplex, exactly. But the Act 1, where we're on the Voyager bridge, Tom shows up, and you know what? He gets Janeway has decided to restore him to the rank of Lieutenant Junior grade, and you get the line that will go down in infamy because he approaches the council, and there's a little box sitting on his chair, and Janeway puts the pip back on his collar, and it's a great moment. And then what does Harry say?
Harry's like, I didn't get a little box.
Yeah, I didn't get a box on my chair this morning, which is one of the few pokes to the fact that he's the only person who never gets promoted?
I don't think
Tuvok he got a regular promotion, but Chakotay and B'Elanna both were not Starfleet when the show started. So in some ways you could look at them as being promoted. Neelix is not Starfleet. Kess was not Starfleet. Seven was not Starfleet. The Doctor became the emergency command hologram at one point. So that's kind of a promotion.
Get a promotion.
Tom got promoted in the first episode, demoted in season 5, and then had his rank restored in this one. So Kim is the only one whose rank never changed at all in the
Yep.
entirety of the series. So that's
Yep.
kind of a bummer because, and he had missteps like any other character, but he did a lot of really great
Yeah.
stuff.
And especially for like, it's just weird because he's an ensign. Like,
Yeah.
for someone like, I don't know, Data, whose rank didn't change throughout the entirety of Next Generation, even into the show and even in the
Right.
films,
Right.
like that kind of makes sense. He's an android. He doesn't really like grow in the same way.
Right.
And so that tracks. But then you have Kim, who's been on a Starfleet vessel for 7 years.
Right.
And he's not like fresh out of the academy when we see him. And
Well,
he's like pretty close. But
yeah, he was pretty close. Exactly. So, and if you think about Voyager, people died along the way, but apparently
Yeah.
there was nobody in the line of succession that he would have gotten a promotion.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
weird because like if you go by normal rank promotion, he should only be an ensign for like a year, maybe 2.
Right. Yeah. If you look at either way that, because your brother's in the army. So, I mean, I'm sure,
That's what I'm saying. It's
yeah,
normally
exactly.
it's only that long. And it's obviously in Star Trek ranks don't move in the same
Right.
way because
And if you
we've had people who's like a lieutenant and he's like, 50. It's like,
yeah, you always had that one background character on the Next Generation who was a gray-haired guy who was lieutenant junior grade, and you saw him in the background in 10 Forward or whatever, and it's like, who is that guy, and why is he like a 60-year-old lieutenant
maybe
junior
he
grade?
was
But
an
again,
enlisted guy and finally decided, I'll just do
Right.
officer for my last 3 years.
Right,
Who
exactly.
knows?
Or he could have been like Picard was in Tapestry.
Just
That
sucked.
he was just because he was a bump on a log. He only ever got one promotion in 30 years. But anyway, now we're dwelling on minutia.
Yeah.
But yeah, which Peter and I do because that's sometimes
So that's what we do. Yeah.
that's sometimes what we do. But anyway, I thought it was a great cliffhanger. I think it was up there with some of the best cliffhanging that they've done because you're like, oh my God, 3 of our character, nobody comes back from being a Borg except for everybody comes back from being a Borg.
Yep.
But the good news is they didn't put a chip in their head like they did with Picard that they couldn't take out, as we finally found out in Picard, because they were only kind of assimilated, like maybe assimilating, like it takes a while to like really like sink in.
That's kind of what's implied in like Best of Both Worlds as well.
Right.
Like he wasn't assimilated for so long, so they could de-assimilate him fairly easily.
Except for the chip in his head. Yes, exactly.
Apparently. Well, that's a retcon, so.
Yeah, exactly. But then, like with Seven, she even in quote unquote present day, she still has Borg bits because she was assimilated at such a young age. So it just really depends on what the story needs. But anyway, all right. Well, let's wrap it up. Let's pick a best and a worst out of this batch. Go for it. What do you say?
I guess to be predictable, I'm going to have to go with Unimatrix Zero as being the best one. It's a part 1, so we don't get the full story, but it's just a really good story.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of fun stuff. It brings back the Borg. We get to see Unimatrix, the Unicomplex. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's introduced in this episode that's really, really cool.
Right.
So, and then you got the great cliffhanger of like, oh no, Janeway's a Borg. Oh crap.
Right.
So it's one of those like really, really well done cliffhangers, similar to Scorpion or Best of Both Worlds. So
absolutely. I bet I can guess what your worst is because you didn't watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. My worst is probably going to be The Haunting of Deck 12.
Right. Because it's just like, oh boy,
it's
a
like
story about kids.
Remember it.
Yeah.
Just don't. I mean, if I had to pick one that wasn't that one, it would probably be Fury, just because as interesting as it is, it didn't need to do what it did.
Yeah.
So.
I'll color a little outside the lines here, and maybe that's just because of my own experience with Bob Picardo, but Lifeline's going to be my favorite. I just think he absolutely did a great job. I love seeing, the Doctor kind of move forward in fits and spurts. And it was kind of like, it was a father-son thing, which, all fathers and all sons have struggled with that component, and making Troy a part of it really harkens back to one of it was funny. We were talking about Sean off pod about season 2 of TNG. And I think of my favorite episode of that season was the Icarus Factor, where we meet.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And Troy is having a conversation with Dr. Pulaski about fathers and sons and how a father regards his son as a child into an adulthood, and a son chafes against his father's expectations of him. And that's really personified in this episode because, our EMH wants to please his dad, And even Janeway is like, well, you're one of millions of prayer. And what difference does it make? He says, well, as much as my journey to become a sentient light being, he's my dad and I want to save his life and blah, blah, blah. And his dad is just a total dickhead. And a lot of people deal with that too. And fortunately, in TV fashion, they find a way to kind of bring it back around. And it's great that Troy is here and she gets to kind of mitigate that and says, well, you're both jerks. And I think, you get another classic Marina, kind of delivery. So when we found talking to Jonathan Frakes how much he respects Marina as a performer, and I absolutely agree. She really is great. And meeting her in person, if you ever have an opportunity to connect with her,
someday,
she is delightful. That we have a story from the cruise that April and I really because they're both going to be on the cruise next year, and I think we might do a group picture if it's available of the two of them and then the two of us. And April says, okay, but only if she calls you Jeremy again, because we had this experience where I walked up to her and I said, hey, I met you a number of years ago at a con in my hometown, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I love the way you say my name. And she says, yes, okay, Jeremy. just completely off the cuff. She's delightful. So anyway, and then for worst, it's funny because I talked about this at length, obviously with John Champion, but Fury really kind of rubs me the wrong way because I'll just underscore what I said already. Kes had a great send off in season 4. I liked where they left that character, and it was very much just kind of leave it alone. And they didn't leave it alone. And they brought her back for a story that in the end of it was like, okay, now she's going to fly off into the wild blue yonder in her weird little shuttlecraft. And what? You know what I mean? At least like next season when we get a conclusion to Neelix's story, it's very satisfactory. Like, he, not to foreshadow an episode, but he finds a way, because the show is ending, to kind of bring the storyline of his character. Like, I've always looked for a home and I've wanted to find my people again, and I finally have. And that's what happens in that episode. That's not what happened here with Kes. And they're like, I think I'm going to fly home to my people who are 50,000 light years from here. It's just that the story just didn't really make any sense to me.
No.
So well, that wraps it up. So we are done with the 6th season of Star Trek Voyager. So we will return around and finish the series several months from now. I know it's kind of weird, but we're going to jump back. We're going to do our first proper series ending, because we've ended TOS, which got canceled. We ended Enterprise, which got canceled.
Which shall not be named.
Which shall not be named. And now we're going to begin our exploration of the 7th season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which ended and transitioned into a film series. It ended in a purposeful way.
Which has the arguably best finale of any Star Trek show so far.
And as a bonus, when we do finish that, we're actually going to watch a documentary, which is available on the Star Trek Season 7 Blu-ray set, and we're going to break down kind of the memories and perspectives of that in our final segment of that. But that's the show for this time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Peter, where do people find you out there if they want to keep the conversation going, if they want to talk about you shirking your duty and not watching the of episode 12, or talk about your hot takes and of undeveloped ideas? Where do they find you?
Yeah, you can find me around the internet at Petrus Aquinas. I'm on a decent number of social media platforms, but I'm not active. So I'm there. If you ping me, you'll get my attention, but I'm not like doing a whole lot.
You got to do a lot to get this guy's attention.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
But I'm more active on Discord, same username. You can find me at the Secret Friends Unite Discord or various others.
Mm-hmm.
You can also find me over on ELH's Discord channel and Twitch, where I'm playing a Temerian chief engineer. And then you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
Woohoo! And I'm easy to find on the social, same handle on Blue Sky, over on Threads or on Instagram. I am at the C3, TheCeethree. But I spend most of my time rocking things out on our Secret Friends Unite Discord. That's where all the fun, safe chit chat is going on. Join that one, and also join us on our Trek Focus Discord, which is United Trekkers of Michigan. You don't have to be from Michigan to join, but I had to call it something. And don't forget, that. If you want, if you're somebody who likes to write emails and want to give us feedback on this show, what we've talked about, any one of our shows, anything at all, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. The mailbag is always open. Send us a note. And as long as it's not necessarily laced with profanity, we might read your comments on the show. But with that, I'm going to thank you again.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.